Hello and welcome to our podcast on rhyme scheme, what that is and how that matters for poetry. Let's go ahead and dive right in. First off, let's define what rhyme is. This is when we have words that sound the same. Nothing really special there, but basically if you have words that sound the same, usually in their last syllable, then you have words that rhyme. Now, oftentimes in poetry, we see the ends of lines tend to rhyme. But that's not always the case. So just because there are words at the end doesn't mean they have to rhyme, doesn't mean they should rhyme, but we oftentimes see them there. Anyway, words like cat, hat, and mat all rhyme. Ham, Sam I am, and ram all rhyme. Box, fox, and socks. And so you can see there that even though they may be spelled differently, they sound the same, and therefore they are called perfect rhymes. Now, since we are the writers of our poetry, we are the masters of our own domain, so to speak, we do have some freedoms to play with words. We can make up words, we can adjust them, we can pronounce them slightly differently in order to get them to rhyme, if we would like. There are pairs of words, though, that don't have exactly perfect rhyme, and those are ones that come close, that might need to be elongated or changed a little bit in pronunciation, and we call those near rhymes or slant rhymes. They sound close, but they're not exact, so they are slant rhymes. An example of slant rhyme might be something like this: mozzarella, parmesan, eat your feta before dawn. So parmesan and dawn sound pretty darn close, but they're not perfect rhymes. We would call that a slant rhyme. So why does this matter? What do we do with this when we are reading poetry? Usually, we can identify a rhyme scheme. That some, not all poetry, tends to have rhyme. And so we are able to discern how the ends of lines start to rhyme. Rhyme scheme, then, is the pattern of those endings. The way we label them is to use the alphabet, so that we look at that and we keep track of the rhyme scheme throughout the entire poem. So let's take a look at some examples. In order to create rhyme scheme, we are going to label the ends of the lines that rhyme, and we're going to use letters of the alphabet for words that do rhyme. For example, here's a song, but we can treat it as poetry. So it says, step 1, you say we need to talk. He walks, you say sit down, it's just a talk. Okay, great. Talk and talk are basically the same word. They rhyme. We'll give them an A. So from now on, anything that rhymes with talk in this whole poem will get an A at the end of its line. He smiles politely back at you. You stare politely right on through. You and through, they rhyme. They're going to get the next letter. That's B. And so throughout the poem, you would just match up the letters with the words that rhyme. So all A's will rhyme, all B's will rhyme, C's, D's, etc. You don't start over every stanza, you start over every poem. So that letter maintains its rhyme throughout the entire poem. Here's another example from a limerick. 'Tis a favorite project of mine, a new value of pi to assign. I would fix it at 3, for it's simpler, you see, than 3.14159. Okay. Mine, assign, and 9 all rhyme. Since line 1 starts us off, it gets an A. Therefore, anything that rhymes with line 1 is going to get an A also. So you can see that lines 1, 2, and 5 all rhyme. Therefore, they get the A. You can then see that lines 3 and 4, 3 and C rhyme with each other, but not with the other ones. Therefore, we go ahead and use the next letter in the alphabet, and in this case, that would be B. So the point is, again, any lines that rhyme are matched with the same letter throughout an entire poem. We use letters, not numbers, not symbols, not dashes, anything like that, but we use letters to define rhyme scheme. Adding a layer here, why does this matter? Some formats of poems are defined by their rhyme. They are delineated to have exact rhyme schemes. For example, things like sonnets, limericks, cinquains, those all have exacting rhyme schemes. So in order for a poem to be a sonnet, it must follow the sonnet rhyme scheme. For it to be a limerick, a true limerick, it needs to follow its rhyme scheme. You can't just write 5 random lines of poetry, make it about a silly topic, and then say, look, I wrote 5 lines. It's clearly a limerick. No. In this case, a limerick has an exacting rhyme scheme, and our poem must fit that. Otherwise, it's not a limerick. Now, this is the opposite of free verse or blank verse, which are not going to have rhyme schemes. They may have meter, which is that rhythmic quality to poetry and song, but they are not going to rhyme. So like we said before, not all poems have to rhyme. But if they fit into certain categories that are defined by rhyme, such as sonnets, limericks, etc., there's probably hundreds of types of poems that are defined by their rhyme, then they have to have that rhyme scheme. But you can certainly write poetry without rhyming. We call that free verse or blank verse, and the difference between those deals with their rhythm. That's about it. Pretty short one today. Just wanted to give you guys the idea of how we track rhyme in a poem. Please remember that we track it through letters. Words that rhyme receive the same letter throughout a poem. So that if you're seeing something at the beginning of the poem and a word at the end of the poem and they rhyme, they should have the same letter at the end of their line. And we just progress through the alphabet. First lines that rhyme get A's, then B's, then C's. Many different types of patterns out there. Many different types of poems that don't have any rhyme at all. But if you do come across some with rhyme scheme, please be using this style of tracking that. As always, thanks so much for listening. If you have any questions, let us know and we will see you soon in class. Thanks.